Some giggling today.
Because I'm here, I bring the joy, usually.
We've got our own tamale.
What to laugh at today to normal? I'm looking at Alex. Something still the shirt. All right, we're just laughing.
So, all right, we're that live streaming in New Brighton and around the world. Kia ora koutou, everybody. For those who are me with our kia timatanga. Whakataka te
Ho, ki te uru. Whakataka te ho, ki te tora. Kia maha kina kina ki uta. Kia maha taratara ki tai. Ia ki ana whakataka. E tiro, e huka, e haurunga. Tihei, mauri ora.
All right. Thank you, everybody, and welcome to Lynn online as well. So in a public information session today about the Marine Parade Street Renewal, funded by formerly CRAF, and we have a seminar walking us through consultation and another an option which is a bit of a synthesis of feedback. And we also have with us two members of the community. We have Esther Perrin from representing the Heron Foreshore Society, and Davies represents the North Beach Residents Association. So not a decision-making meeting, but it's an opportunity for us to ask questions, to receive information, to ask questions from staff, and to provide some feedback before it comes to a decision meeting in September. Right. Well, any questions about the process? Just for the benefit of those who aren't usually with us at the table, when it comes to questions and speaking, you have the same speaking question rights as members, but please just raise your hand and make sure that we're not talking over each other or interrupting each other. Just basic meeting protocol. All right. Well, in that case, I will ask staff to come and join us at the end of the table. Before we do that, you're welcome to come up anyway. We've got apologies from Tim Baker, apologies for lateness from Kelly, and I think that's it. Right, we don't need to move that because it's not a meeting. Right, so if you staff, would you just like to introduce yourselves and let me know whether you want to take questions. Stop periodically, just have questions. Just have questions if you need.
Is this not plugged in?
Oh, no, there's like hanging in. Sorry.
Oh, you push it.
Actually, I'm going to laugh at that now. You know? Seriously, we haven't plugged the microphone. It's like everyone can giggle. Super happy.
Are we plugged in?
They weren't charged because we've only got enough charges for so many of them.
Criticism.
No.
Oh no, maybe not. Maybe not that one. Sorry about that.
All right, over to you, Shirley.
Standing. Waiting for it to go green.
It's not green.
Like you've done this.
It's just got to give it a moment off the battery
It's
kicks
just
in,
having
but
a
just speak
thing.
loudly for a moment.
Kia ora everyone, my name is Charlene and I'm the Project Manager for the Marine Parade Street Renewal Project. So today we're here to present to you an update and consultation. A bit of recap on the project objectives and what was agreed by the Community Board on 12th September 2022. So a section of Cook Street to 187 Marine Parade, remove the existing pavement and replace with new pavement structure to support asphalt and assess footpath condition. So that was the first one. Lonsdale Street to 142 Marine Parade, replace the curb and dish panel with curb and flat and assess footpath condition. Investigate options for cycle facility, address resident concerns around speed, and upgrade intersection of Hawke Street and Marine Parade. If there was funding and permitting, we would investigate 187 from Marine Parade to Lonsdale Street. Currently do nothing in this section of this surplus funding available, and if the board agrees. And 142 Marine Parade to Bulwood Road. So today's purpose, we're here to provide a board with feedback on consultation responses. Consultation started on 31st of May and closed out on 1st of July. We had a market day on the 22nd of June on Saturday as well, where we're at with results from feedback. Feedback consultation has been evaluated, and a result request from the board on a shared park option on alongside eastern on the Marine Parade east side, and a high level option for shared park on the east side has been investigated. So these are the two options that went out for consultation. These are within the project objectives. So 185 metres of asphalt renewal from Hawke Street to 187 Bulwood Road, replace deep dish channel and replace with flat channel between Lonsdale Street to 142 Marine Parade, pedestrian refuge island on Hawke Street at the intersection of Marine Parade, pedestrian island at the entrance of New Brighton Beach Park, zebra crossing on Marine Parade near the intersection of Hawke Street. The cost estimate for this was $4 million with 30% contingency, a loss of approximately 2 car parks. We note that when we went up for consultation, we had noted 18 car parks being removed. This was an oversight at our part as the project team. We took it as formalising of bus stop marking as parking removal, but that's not the case. Technically, you know, if there's a bus stop that you cannot park. And then option B, 185 metres of chip seal renewal because it's the cheaper option. And then replace deep dish channel and replace with curb flat between Lonsdale Street to 142 Marine Parade. Painted on-road cycleway lanes on each side of the road. 7 safer speed platforms and 1 speed hump. Pedestrian refuge island on Hawke Street at the intersection of Marine Parade. Pedestrian refuge island at the entrance of New Brighton Beach car park. An improved pedestrian island on Marine Parade near Bulwood Road. A zebra crossing on Marine Parade near intersection of Hawke Street. And the cost estimate for this option went out as $4.5 million with 30% contingency. We have not, on originally, like I said, we noted 115 car parks lost in this option. However, after assessing, it's 101. Moving on to the next one. So the community board had asked us to look into a parking availability map for the surrounding streets. The current on-street parking from Hawke Street to Bulwood Road, there's 230 on-street car parks available currently without proposing a removal. There's enough car park, adequate parking on the side streets of Capel, Lonsdale and Hawke Street. We can go a bit more detail if the board would like, just to show where the parkings are available.
Just get an
Yeah,
indication.
go through it. Cool. That's the other one we've got between where the parkings are available and like the slide. One other thing we want to note, the parking bays along Marine Parade. There was a lot of general comments made at the market day about lack of parking in these parking bays. People did feel that a normal car could not park in there, but that's not the case. Cars can park in these bays, however, they cannot stay overnight unless until they're self-contained. During consultation feedback, 11 submitters specifically said remove the freedom camping along the bays to create more car parks. So I'll now hand over to Kieran, who will go through the consultation material for us.
Kia ora. Those who don't know me already, my name's Kieran. I'm the engagement advisor for this project. So consultation, as we say before, ran from the 31st of May to the 1st of July. So we used just as an overview to remind the board of the tactics that we used to try and reach the community. So we sent out everything from emails to key stakeholders, delivering flyers to directly affected properties, geospatial marketing campaigns. So this actually meant anyone who lived within 1 kilometre of Marine Parade were receiving advertising on their Facebook and Instagram for the entire consultation period. We put social media posts on local community groups as well as a newsline, which gets pushed out to a large number of people around Christchurch. We had in-person engagement sessions and also set up an engagement display at the New Brighton Library, with social media posts as well to advertise that this was a way that people could get involved. Overall, we received 339 submissions. As you can see, the breakdown there was quite split between option A and I prefer neither option. So this also was an option that people could choose during the consultation if they felt that the options weren't living up to the expectations. We also received over 1,200 quick polls. I will also just define with the quick polls. So quick polls are treated as supplementary information, and we use them as a tactic to reduce the barriers for people to engage with our consultation. They help us to understand wider sentiment, and they complement the formal submissions, but they're not treated as such because they don't meet the requirements of the Local Government Act. Token boxes in the same instance are treated as a similar tactic.
Do you have a question for clarification?
Yeah, just how do you get the quick polls? Is it online or is it?
Yes.
Talking or?
So quick polls are done online. So essentially we have two different sections before when someone makes a submission, we basically have a call to action that says, if you're short on time, give us your quick thoughts. But if you complete that, you get invited to make a full submission, as well as that. The full submission is very clearly below the quick poll activity. But yeah, in the same instance, we have token boxes at the New Brighton Library and also at the Market Day, which we had some really good engagement with. So, and on top of that, we had formal submission feedback forms that people could take away and write into us at the market and at the library. So I also have put overall the organisations that we heard from. So the email of our key stakeholders was we worked with the Waitai governance team to basically make sure we captured as many interested parties as we could, and it also meant that we used information from the previous page to our bridge consultation to make sure that they were as anonymous as possible. So yeah, pretty much everyone who submitted was targeted in that consultation was also targeted in this one. We also included schools, preschools, worked with the local safety travel advisors to make sure that we reach them. But these are the organisations that made formal submissions on the consultation. So breakdown of the results is one by area and also another one by travel type to help people understand the people who submitted. So results by area, in the blue, those who were living on Marine Parade, and this was broken down by everyone who made a formal submission had to provide their address. So everyone who was living and identified in their addresses living on Marine Parade were counted in there. Again, quite split between option A and neither. Living in New Brighton was identified between if people sit in their suburb, North New Brighton, South New Brighton, North Beach, and New Brighton in general. Since the suburb category is a free text box, so yeah, people can put in their own answers, and then living elsewhere, yeah, basically those results inversed.
That bottom line, 2052.72, that doesn't collate with what you've got on the previous page, the 114, 320 and 111.
Oh, apologies. So the results by areas, the 72 especially there was a bit of a typo with the data coming off, but it's 62 in the living elsewhere, and every other number is consistent. But yeah, apologies, that was a typo with the transferring data over. Looking at the results by travel type as well, so people were asked how they most frequently travel through the area, and these were the top 4, so bus, walking, /riding, scooters, so by car. In terms of the thematic analysis, one of the main questions that we asked people during consultation was, before anyone even chose which option they preferred, we asked them what do you like and what don't you like about each option. So people primarily told us for option A that they liked that option A retained car parking, had pedestrian islands which kept people safe at a busy intersection, included pedestrian crossings, which was the pedestrian zebra crossing on the, as people were turning right out of Hawke Street onto Marine Parade. People really liked the asphalt. They felt it was cost effective and that it improved the curb gutter. People didn't like the amount of car parking that was removed, even though this option number 2 was the one that removed the least amount of car parking. There was a lot of sentiment that just any car parking removal was too much and that car parking was a necessity for the regeneration of New Brighton. And that, yeah, also for beachgoers, that parking was very precious. There were some submissions that had sentiment that didn't address the current cyclist issues or safety issues that had been raised previously. There were some that felt that it wasn't cost effective, especially with the amount of money that was being spent, and there was a perceived small return, and also pedestrian safety, in that this option still wasn't doing enough to basically prioritise pedestrians. There was a sense that the zebra crossing wasn't in the right place, or that it was disconnected from the pedestrianised section of Marine Parade. Option B, people really liked the cycleways. They liked the pedestrian safety at intersections, the pedestrian islands, the speed platforms, and the reduced speed. Part of the plan was to extend the 30-kilometre zone. But first and foremost, we heard very loud and clear that people, again, were very passionate and felt that parking was a necessity in Brighton, especially if regeneration was the goal for the area. Speed platforms were also not supported by some, since the number was deemed excessive, especially if it was at the expense of parking removal. And yeah, there was also sentiment around parking removal seeming unwise, especially since there was such a large amount of high density buildings that were being built in the area now. Cycle lanes was also not, some people didn't support those because of the amount of space that they took up on the road, and there was also a feeling that it was unnecessary because of the path that was already existing on the sand dunes. There was some sentiment that it wasn't cost effective. There was quite a bit of sentiment that chip seal just wasn't needed. There was a bit of historical feedback around flying chips damaging cars and windshields and just sealing not being done right. There was some cyclists who also mentioned that it was very uncomfortable to ride on. And lastly, there was some that said again it didn't address cyclist issues, especially since honing in on painted lanes not being safe enough, and that the design needed to have a separated aspect. There were also some alternatives that were proposed through the consultation. First and foremost, one of the largest was that nothing was wrong with the street, or that they didn't want any option progressed, and that the money should just be used either somewhere else or just be recuperated as a cost saving. There was 23 people who said that they wanted an alternative option developed entirely. This ranged from things like an option that retained all car parking, an option developed by residents living along Marine Parade, and also just a combination of A and B together. There were some who wanted to see the existing walking and cycling path, the gravel path I mentioned before, upgraded. Again, initially mentioned in the previous slide, the free camping bays removed, and then a few that also just wanted to see very simple repair.
What we heard, so about 199 people said they'd want to retain parking in this area. 56 people wanted a cycleway installed along Marine Parade. 39 people said address current cyclist issues, and then 12 people said that upgrade the shared path along the beach side of Marine Parade. The community board had requested a third option based on consultation feedback, and staff have completed a high-level desktop analysis using existing survey to develop a bi-directional cycleway from Cook Street to Lonsdale and a shared path from Lonsdale to Boggle Road, which we'll just go into now. So we have a 3-metre bi-directional cycleway from the eastern side of Marine Parade on the beach side, which runs along from start of the hot poles all the way through by Lonsdale Street. So before we go into it, there is a pedestrian island improvement proposed just before New Brighton car park and a bi-directional that runs alongside. From Lonsdale Street, we have a shared path, and there's about a number of trees and parking bays that we're supposed to remove trees and car parks as well. So the shared path will retain, the bi-directional cycle facility will retain parking on both sides. And this goes back to the feedback that we received during consultation that a lot of people wanted parking retained. And then the shared path will do the same thing, which will retain parking on street. We go into the first parking bay. This is bay 6 here. So we've got, in total, we've got 10 prevent car parks in there, which will retain 3 parking slots on the beach side and then remove parking on the city side of the bay. And then we move on to parking bay number.
Lynn, you might want to mute.
Sorry, yep.
Right. We've been there.
Bless you.
So we're going on to the shared path on parking bay number 5. We lose about 3 parking slots in here and retain 3 on the beach side, so in the city side, and lose on the beach side. Go into the 4th parking bay we've got. So we retain parking on both sides. The current numbers on that is 12. And then the shared path runs along the dude side. We've got the 3rd parking bay, which retains parking on the city side and loses the parking on the beach side. So in total, we've got 8 parking in there and loses 4 and retains 4. They go into parking number 2 and 1, which retains parking on both sides. And the shared path goes all the way through past Bottle Road by the red car. You can see there, you can just see.
And that is a loss of how much parking?
So in total, what's the numbers? So it loses 10 parking along the parking bays and retains 36.
And in the western side of the road, all parking is retained apart
Yes,
from the
parking
bus stops,
retained.
which technically aren't
Yeah.
parking bays anywhere.
Yeah, so parking retained outside. Any more questions?
Yeah, just, I was just saying,
About the
if the
numbers.
board have actually asked for a third option.
So we did, going back quite a way.
Then email, sorry.
In an email. Okay.
Based on constitution feedback.
But based on the synthesis of what the consultation has said, this is another option. I mean, we'll come back to the.
This. Cool. A proposed bi-directional cycleway has not been fully investigated and is in very early stages of concept. This work has been taken through a desktop analysis and site visit with the Park Rangers team and arborist. Board will need to provide a staff steer on this development if we'd like further investigation to be done for this option. This option will result in parking loss along the eastern side of the parking bays, causes the sand dunes and removal of trees. In total, like I
In the middle
said,
of trying to listen to the staff speak and you put the kettle on. No, it's right, you keep going.
In total, there's 46 car parks along the parking bays, will result in loss of 10 and retaining 36. We've done a high level estimate for this option, it was $1.6 million.
Can we just wait for you to finish?
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, sorry, that was it.
Okay, you done?
Yeah.
All right, I had Dave, and then Celeste.
My question's been answered.
Right.
Celeste.
She's got quite a few questions, so I'm just trying to think of which the best one is. So it's a shared path, so, because you're referring
So
to
it's
it
a
as.
Bi-directional cycleway facility from Hawke Street to Lonsdale, and then it transitions into a shared path.
Okay. What's the difference?
So the bi-directional is the on-street,
Oh, it's on
On the
street,
road,
okay,
yeah.
okay.
and the shared path uses the sand dunes.
Great. And, sorry, just looking through. With this option here, would you look at extending the 30K zone?
That's been changed.
Just wondering around this, because it was, speeding is the other issue, on-road speeding. I'm just wondering, would that be captured within this potentially, or is it we're not at that stage yet?
I don't. Excuse me, I've just got a drink. I don't think we can answer that at this stage, and I don't think we would have be able to respond on speed limits until we know the outcome of the setting of speed limits. That's part of it, it needed to be, sorry.
That's all right, it's mildly
entertaining.
So that potentially could be something.
That would have to be done in the
Yeah.
future, I think.
Cool. And I've just got a couple more before we move on to the next person. Thank you. This is really clear and helpful, and also thank you for your efforts at all the consultation that you did. I particularly thought that the in-person one at the mall was really helpful because people could ask questions, and it was interesting to get a bit of a vibe check from people. In terms of the parking bays, this is probably a separate project question, but if we lost, say, 10 car parks, could we also look at, as a separate project, restricting freedom camping in those zones so that the net gain from a community perspective would be more than the loss? Because at the moment there is a view that those spaces aren't available during the day because people are staying there during the day with events. So you might not be able to answer that question, but that would be a separate project. Yeah, but I guess then that's a rhetorical question. We'll probably look at that as a separate project, but.
Yeah, sorry, I think you mentioned in the earlier presentation that parking is available for anyone to park in there during the day. So if you've got a sport day on, people can park in there. I think it's the signage that confuses people.
Okay, and I've just got one more follow-up on that point.
Yeah.
Do you know with because it talks about the self-contained vehicles, but I thought that legislation has changed, but we haven't. When does that come into effect in terms of the self-contained part of the, when that is? Okay, so that's fine. Thank you.
Come back.
Okay, Greg and then Esther.
Is the reason you haven't looked at having the shared path the whole way along, was it just specifically because the roads are already there rather than having it built out, where it's a bi-directional cycleway to keep consistency along the whole section?
So are you talking from Lonsdale through to?
Yeah, so there's the bi-directional cycleway to start with, which is going to be on road, rather than pushing the curve out, into the road rather, and having a consistent, the same path the whole way along, so it's always a shared path.
Yes, please.
Yeah, it's probably been, I guess, cost conscious. So by pushing that, so at the moment, the footpath is not wide enough to accommodate a shared path. So we would have to push out the curve, redo the curve, redo the footpath all the way out. The solution that we proposed is sort of a more cost conscious solution. We were using like lower cost separators, so like Boston.
Yeah. Park Terrace, sorry.
Yeah, Park Terrace.
Yeah.
Sorry. That was really that's really the, I guess, the idea behind that. Excuse me. Noting it's also probably a little bit more pedestrianised than further north of Lonsdale Street with all the beach access as well. So, and also that can help with safety by separating out faster potentially faster moving cyclists from the pedestrians in that area as well.
And also with that, is there any consideration given to maybe joining like parking bays 5 and 6 on the end of Roughfeety Avenue? Because at the moment they come out just either side of where the road is. So there are cars coming out into those crossing points.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
just look at this. So these 2 trees will need to be removed. We can look into it and further investigate if that can be possible.
Like it's just a thought. As I say, at the moment you've got someone coming out just onto that corner, and likewise tuning in just afterwards on where the 2 crossings are.
So before I go to Esther and then Yana, I just want to clarify something for Joe. So I asked that there be the diversity of opinion that staff come to us with, if possible, with an option that kind of gets the most people happy, so that we're not just locked into what seem to be 2 binary options. And that means staff would have to consult on this option before, if we were to agree, staff would have to consult on it. So it's not like we're going to be going blind into a decision-making meeting without community feedback. Anyway, Esther and then Yanni and then Joe.
Hi. Firstly, a massive, just supporting what Celeste said, massive thank you for the enormous amount of work I spent this morning reading and coding the responses, and yeah, impressive to see that you guys had done such good work there, but also I think impressive that our community has stood up and said this is something that's really important. I think it's really important to see that there are a lot of people outside of our area who see that New Brighton is actually a citywide asset, not just something, that when you look at the number where people are submitting from, I think that was really useful data to let us know that there are some quite big differences between people who are living in the area, people who live on the parade and people who live elsewhere, but obviously that people feel deeply about it. Just picking up on Celeste's point in regards to the proposed, may I call it option C for clarity, in regards to the loss of the 10 car parks and how freedom camping in those areas may impact this. I was actually surprised when doing my coding to see the amount of people who raised freedom camping. I had thought that issue may have been dead in the water, but it's clear now that that's not. And I think it gives us an opportunity to do another piece of work to look at how we could do that. I just wanted to ask the question as to whether or not there had been a survey of how those areas are used at different times of the day. I have a particular insight into this as I live directly opposite one of these areas. And when there's comments around the fact that those parks are available, I wonder if there has been surveys. Could you let me know if there's been surveys around the timing of sports events and whether people in the camper vans or caravans have exited those bays at those times, and whether or not how welcoming those areas might appear for parking when there are people doing their laundry and brushing their teeth? Sorry, so my question was, have you surveyed those places at all times or just at certain times of the day?
So the parking bay has been always out of our scope of project. So everything that we had, the objective of the project has been Walk Street down to Olive Road.
Yeah.
So we've not surveyed the parking bays. No.
Awesome, great, thank you. And picking up on Greg, your comment around continuity of the cycleway, I think it was also interesting to look at the data and to see that a number of submitters spoke about stuff that hasn't really been touched on yet, but I wonder if the staff have considered the potential for Marine Parade closure in the future, certain parts of it to traffic. When we're talking about continuity, I think that there was indications here that people wished to still cycle and walk through there, but maybe no cars in this immediate mall vicinity, and whether that had been taken into consideration. And also asked if the staff have considered whether Marine Parade is being considered as an entire length of road rather than just the piece of road that we're looking at. So trying to think longer term.
Probably a bit out of scope.
Sorry, just if it's been considered.
Yeah, but
Thank you.
Yeah, we need to try and keep our questions focused on what we're being presented today.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure you'd be happy to have a conversation offline about that stuff.
Yeah, we can find out a bit more information on it and bring it back if there's anything.
Yeah, I think Lynette has something to say.
I can have a chat afterwards.
Yeah, so Lynette's the big traffic boss.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
The bigger official title.
Yeah. Yeah, the traffic boss, the elder. Jan, Silty.
Thanks, sorry, so just want to clarify around the pricing. So this is 1.6 million extra or 1.6 million total?
1.6 million extra
Right,
with this option.
right, and how much money do we have on the craft fund?
Yeah.
What I'm trying to understand is what's the total cost of the project if we add this compared to the budget that we currently have?
So we've got $2.2 million left in the program budget and $3.5 million left in the project budget. So in total, we've got $5.7 million.
Right, so basically the entire craft thing for New Brighton
We're going to
would go into this and we have 100,000 left over.
correct.
Okay. The other thing is just trying to understand the safety assessment of the bi-directional cycleway. Have we done a safety assessment?
It's a very high level concept at this stage. We didn't want to spend any more money or any time investigating this until the board was a steer on it.
Right, okay. I guess it's just in the past we've had advice that bi-directional cycleways are dangerous and we don't prefer them.
That's probably more around, shared paths. Because you've got the interaction with pedestrians and cyclists. So there would need to be some measures to slow down cyclists, and there's more design that would need to be done on that option to sort of button those safety concerns off.
So I'll come up with help with that because I have been in many of the discussions around cycleways over the years, and Councillor Johansson probably recalls situations where we've discussed that the type of facility that's proposed is very situational, and a bi-directional cycleway is one of the challenges with a bi-directional cycleway is the number of people crossing it, entering or exit. So it's entrances and exits across it, and there are minimal along that side of the road.
I just can't see the map quite clear enough. But there's one of the major car parks that people would use with about 130 car parks, so that would be quite a busy one. So obviously that would be a little bit of concern if people.
But it's the number of them and the volume. So there's balancing that. Okay, so that's why they've proposed it.
And just the other question I had was in regards to just understanding what's happening with the new development. So the third option would it go on top of option A? Is that the suggestion? Or, well, I'm just trying to understand, like, I'm not quite sure what's happening with the rest of the project with the additional option.
What's shown on there is basically A plus the shared path. Option A plus the shared path. It's kind of.
So that's pretty exactly the same, but with the additional.
Yeah. So for all intents and purposes, like what you're getting with option A is also primarily in this.
Okay, thanks.
We've got Joe, and then Dave, and then Greg, and then Esther.
Yeah, thanks, guys. Yanni asked a couple of the questions I wanted to. Regarding this, could it be done as a separate project in the future if we just decided to go ahead with A at the moment?
Is it using these CRAF funding?
Without using CRAF funding, because CRAF was actually given to us not for this project, but for a whole range of projects to use right throughout the ward. And it seems like a real pity that we just focus on one stretch of road when there's so many others that are in need.
I think it'll be a board decision whether they want to go option A or B, and later do this other bi-directional path option later.
So that could be a possibility later to add it on later if we needed to or wanted to.
Fine for me.
1.6.
extra.
I imagine so my view is that we could in theory, but it wouldn't cost 1.6. To do it in the future, it would cost more money than that.
Yeah, I was just actually just about to comment on that. Yes, you could do this later, but you would have to pay a lot of, there's optimization by doing it together with not having to get construction crews out there twice and that sort of stuff. But yeah, it's basically costs a little bit more.
Any more questions? Yeah.
I'll just leave it because I don't think my opinion matters anyway.
Or you can ask another question if you like. Dave?
Thank you. Coming to this forum today, I obviously wasn't aware of option C. And my community probably are more concerned with probably from about Rafidi Ave northward anyway, with Thompson Park frontage and associated activities there. I think the big concern that the community in the north had was the loss of car parks, particularly on a hot summer's day, touch rugby, a whole host of activities that occur in Thompson Park. So from that point of view, I think it's fair to say our community supported option A with no loss of car parking in that particular area. Speaking on my own behalf here, just having seen the option C, I think our community would have a degree of empathy for that sort of approach to cycleways. However, I would throw another cat amongst the pigeons really in saying that our community has long supported a promenade along the foreshore, which would actually kill all birds with one stone. So I'm probably more inclined to say that our community would go with option A and look to develop other options. What you put there is a good option. Personally, I prefer to see the promenade option from New Brighton right through to Waimari and back the other way to New Brighton, South Brighton.
Can I clarify what you mean by promenade? Sorry, Dave.
Yeah, but anyway, that's another point. An interesting point that I would like to sort of throw into the next.
Sorry, Dave, I don't know what you mean by promenade.
Oh, well, think of Scarborough, Sumner, on top of the dunes, a walkway, cycleway, path.
Coastal pathway.
A multiple pathway.
Well, okay, so now I know what you mean.
Yeah.
Right.
So that's what a number of people in North Beach have been advocating for a long time. Initially, it was promoted between North Beach and Waimari, but go back the other way.
Okay, now you've clarified.
Yeah.
Do you have any questions?
Yeah, I'd just like to clarify the actual legal road. If you look at Marine Parade, when you come out of New Brighton past the Surf Club, and when you get up to Lonsdale Street, it's being narrow. And I'm sure in my mind that the legal road actually follows the footpath at Lonsdale Street all the way down. I know on the other side at North Beach further, I'm definite that the legal road is actually a few metres in there. And we've increased the roading, well, the edge of the road is actually encroached out into the legal road. So that would be an interesting point to follow up. But,
sorry, can you give staff a chance to answer?
So, yeah, the black line over there, that's the legal road boundary.
it is a legal road, the black line.
Whoa.
Any further questions, Dave?
No, I don't think so, but I just, I believe it will probably be the process that option C seems to maybe address a few issues, and I presume we'll go back out to consultation.
It would have to if the board gave the steer to the because we can't just add an option.
So the options for the board are either option A or B.
Or go out to consultation,
Or go back out to
and then we'd have three options or status quo. Right, so, sorry, I'll, Joe, was that in line?
I just want to check on that, yeah.
Just check on that, yeah.
Yep, so given that their road is the black line, can we maybe in the future go back into there, or would it need all sorts of consents, and because that would be going into June territory?
So that has become part of the dunes now.
Yep.
And I did speak to our consenting, our planner downstairs and CCC, and it's, do need to get a review, proper review done to be able to understand what sort of consenting will be required.
Okay, so that would be extra additional costs on top of everything.
Correct.
Okay.
All right, we'll go back into the speaking order now. I just wanted to give you the chance to.
And if we agreed to try and add the cycleway, can there be additions and changes to that, or would it be?
Well, so if we'll have resolutions for all the things that are necessary for the staff to do the work. So yes, we can amend resolutions. So, because we can't, when we make a decision to do anything like this, it'll be, you know, do this, do this, do this, do this. So we could amend that, yes. But then obviously we're not technicians, so we have to be careful about the changes we make. But we would have to see what came back to us on the agenda for the report for the decision making meeting next month. So there's quite a bit of time between now and then, remember, as well. And I would hope that we'll get it well in advance, because bearing in mind there's quite strong views, so it's important that we have the information. Yeah, pardon? No, there's some more. Yeah, we'll find out more about timing soon. So I've got a speaking order. I've got Greg, and then Esther, and then Alex, and then Celeste, and then Lynn, and then Dave, and then Jan.
I just have one more question.
Okay. You've got, yeah, but your question's at the end.
Okay.
Yeah. So Greg, and Alex is abandoned. Greg.
What's the overall distance of the shared path that's been proposed? The shared path, it's 3 meters wide, but what's the length that's proposed for 1.6 million?
The shared path is comprised from Lonsdale Street to Oval Road.
Yep, and what's that distance?
About 700
I've written it
metres,
down
maybe.
somewhere. I've got it on some of my other writings.
Sorry, I mean,
I think it's over a kilometre.
It'll be about 700 metres.
You reckon?
Yeah, it's a
Where's the key?
The kilometre community.
The measure the paper.
Everyone needs a piece of paper like that.
How long is a piece of paper?
Yes, it's a very long piece of paper. I can't find a key. Oh, there's the key there.
About 2 meters.
Straight down to Oval Road.
It's about 6 or 7
No, it's
metres.
bi-directional. So
But it's not just path for 1.6 million, it's the whole length for 1.6.
Actually,
Yeah, true, yeah.
that's why it's slightly nicer.
Really? And that's out of scope, but it's conceivable to be able to carry that on in the future. So it's option one, that could be extended and we go all the way to the surf club or heading south from there as well.
we only stopped at the Memorial Community Centre. Yeah.
That's it, that's what you
That can be investigated.
Yeah, we know it's fines of money for every measure.
Yeah.
He's good on that.
Lotto's 50 million.
That's good.
No, some bugger won it. Probably a question for the chair. When you talked about going back to the community to consultate A, B, C, leave as, can you go back and say B was clearly not favoured, so we're dropping B? To make it less confusing for
question
people?
to me. So
Staff, someone?
because we've consulted already on A and B. So what
And
the
there's a
consultation
clear winner
must
or
be.
loser.
So what the consultation would be on, what do you think of this option, I think?
Mm.
Because we've already, otherwise we're doubling up our work and it will muddy the waters.
Mm.
And then, but when it comes back to the board, there'll be in the decision-making matrix, there'll be option A, option B, option C, and then we'll have the information from the consultation about that. which we can compare to these other options.
Okay, cool. So going back to when I put my hand up, which was a wee while ago, it was in regard to somebody asking about how much. One of the things that I've tried to consider whilst considering this is where we can save money. And in my learnings, it would be fair to say that I'm not a civil engineer, but I've tried to learn real quick.
It's all right, nobody at this table is, apart from yeah.
That guy there.
But it doesn't stop us from having opinions.
Okay, so I have learnt in the process of learning that the replacement of the Cuban channel from 170 to 142, which is from Lonsdale to the last house that borders the domain, needs to be replaced, which came as a bit of a shock to me because I live on that stretch and it's just been repaved. And I understand it wasn't council funding that did it, it was some other funding, but we've got brand new black asphalt, beautiful pavement. I understand that it is the preference, and it might be due to hydrological engineering, that the grass be closest to the curb in case of closest to the channel in case things overflow and water needs to go into the grass and to be soaked up. Currently, it's the other way around, which is the reason why they want to dig up that footpath rather than just replace the channel. Since I learned this, I've been looking at lots and lots of other projects that I drive past that are being done at the moment, and I see in some areas that they haven't changed the grass pavement order, and they've kept it with the grass closest to the house and the pavement closest to the street. So obviously there are some cases where we can perhaps look to the future and say, when we redo this pavement again in another 20 years, we should swap the grass and pavement over. But to save money in this one, could we say somebody else has just nicely paid to get that pavement done, let's just do the channel and do the stormwater rather than worry about
keep it uniform.
Yeah. So I know it's not your favourite idea, but I'm trying to save money to try and look for other opportunities.
Yeah. So we have, been looking at the stormwater options around there. One of the, key considerations and probably the driving reason behind that, the arrangement that we've come up with is that we need to retain a certain amount of volume because the deep dish is quite deep and carries a lot of volume of water, and there is a reasonable amount of water that goes down there in a large event. So the idea with the grassed areas that we can shape it so that we can retain enough volume so that we don't negatively impact the stormwater capacity, so that you don't get flooding of properties.
Just following up on it. Yeah, so I looked at this last night because I agree with Esther. It actually is a bit of a waste of money, especially if we've just paved that and it looks beautiful at the moment. But to uniformly along that stretch of Marine Parade, the other houses on the other side have got that normal guttering and they have got their grassed area beside their fence. And then following on from that, on the other side of Rafiti Ave, they have just paving. But then the further south you go, they've only got concrete with no grass, but then it ends up becoming grass again with the similar flat dish. So why can it not just stay as a flat dish to keep it uniform with the rest of it?
That's, I guess there's wider stormwater issues facing this particular section of Marine Parade. The other sections I can't talk necessarily about further along, but the section between Lonsdale and Hawke Street is quite well serviced by existing stormwater infrastructure. So there's like good pipes underground, etc. that they've tied into. From Lonsdale through to actually just a bit past where we're stopping, there's very little stormwater infrastructure. To be perfectly honest, it's just the channel that's the only stormwater. So there's no extra sort of pipes that we can connect into so that we can just have just the curb as it is.
sorry, thankfully, I do live here, so literally in the block that we're talking about, so I can talk to this from 7, 8, 9, nearly 9 years now of living here. So I've lived through a few storm events. I've just done a quick count up. There's 28 houses along the stretch that we're talking about. 15 of them are brand new builds. All of them, my house included, have floors above the 12.7 or whatever that we have to build to. So that a majority of the houses along that stretch are already brand new builds with high floor levels. The ones that are not, looking at it just from this thing, I don't think we've got too much of an issue because most of them are, yeah. Anyhow, I don't feel like we have issues with flood. I know certainly further south, like where Dave is up north, there's definitely issues, but that's to do with drainage out to the sea and that not being cleared. I don't know if it's actually to do with the stormwater under the.
So I guess that if you weren't to do that work, would that save a significant amount of money?
You would have some savings, but it's not going to we're not talking about a quantum leap kind of sort of savings.
Tens of thousands.
I can't put a number on it, but sort of ballpark would be hundreds.
Hundreds of thousands.
Yeah.
Right. Cool.
Touches a million.
Thank you. Celeste?
So fascinated by all the questions. I forgot what mine was. If the board decides to include this as an option that goes out to a public consultation, just to clarify, can we then suggest that some of the things that are discussed today are included as part of that recommendation? So, for instance, to just give an example, say Greg's query around the parking bays, is that something we can ask for staff to look into to see if it can be incorporated into the design? Bearing in mind it might not be feasible. Does that make sense? So if we come up with some really great ideas today to include in option C, can we put those to staff to see if they can include it into option C?
It will need to be investigated first.
Yeah.
So, and then we'll have to look at the costing to how much it's going to cost. So
yeah,
we can bring that to the board.
But for instance, say if we were comfortable as a group that the Coogan Channel could potentially be a wait and see, given that the work's been done and we think that's a reasonable trade-off, we could then potentially reinvest that money into something that provided better and safer access to those car parking bays, for instance. Because I do think that having lots of small car parking bays is actually a little bit problematic for a few reasons, because you're driving in and out, and whereas having a larger one with more space seems like a pretty sensible idea, potentially.
Yeah, so would be a board steer still okay?
So just take notes of those things. If you want another question, we'll have to come back to you.
Yeah, that's fine. Keep going.
So we've got
writing notes.
No, sorry, I just had one final one. Is it, going back to the original consultation in 2021, I was reading back through the information and it talked about some of the key things that came from that. So it says here that the two key requests at that time were speed reduction measures and cycle safety. Is that, you might not have been here, Shelley, but
I was not here.
It's gone on for a long time, but actually, if that is the case, going back to that time, this does reflect some of those key things.
So option B had those safer speed platforms to slow speed down. So that was incorporated as part of the key feedback that we received during the consultation.
Thank you.
Lynn.
Okay, hi guys, can you hear me?
Yep.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, cool. Hi, thank you so much for inviting me here today. For starters, I just wanted to say I really liked the consultation with the different options. I think while it might not count in your official data, but I think things even like the token and stuff like that are really good tools to engage people who usually wouldn't engage. So I think it's really, really nice to see. I've got a question in regards to the longevity and the cost difference of the asphalt and the chip seal, potentially, because it seems to be not a huge stretch of road. And is there a huge price difference for that one? And then the second one is actually, I know that we're trying to reduce a bit the speed and also kind of increase the safety kind of by slimming the road, for example, kind of because the road in the moment, Marine Parade, is quite a wide road. Its car parking is an issue, and in the moment it's a lot of parallel car parking. So I'm just wondering whether any investigation has been done, whether instead of parallel parking, there could be angled parking, or in a different angle to increase the parking kind of, and so maybe you have more stretch where you increase the parking, slim down the road, and then further down it's wider again, something like that. And then the last one is really, I think Marine Parade to me is almost like a heritage site, kind of, dare I say it, but New Brighton has a lot of amazing things, but that front on the ocean is just super unique. So kind of getting this right for the long term, I think, is so important, because it is like people just come to go to the beach, so tourists as well. So hopefully it will be accessible for all. That's it.
We'll just go through one question at a time, if that's okay.
Oh, sorry.
So your first question was, what's the cost for asphalt?
Is it a huge, maybe not the direct, you might not be able to give that, but is it a huge difference between the asphalt and the chip seal?
Yeah, so we've estimated a cost for asphalt at $1 million with 30% contingency, and then chip seal at $112,000 with 30% contingency.
So that's quite big. And then kind of in regards to the longevity of the surfaces?
Yeah, with this environment, they expected to last around about the same length of time, sort of around the 10, 15 years in terms of the road surface. So.
Okay, that's quite incredible. Okay. And then the parking direction, sorry, I've been quiet in the background, so maybe I can have a second question, but the parking direction, has ever been considered, rather than parallel parking, to actually change a bit how the road is laid out for that?
Yeah, so we haven't directly sort of considered the impact on the number of parking spaces, mainly because angle parking when it comes to cyclists is less safe, because you've got people reversing out of angled car parks. They can't see cyclists approaching until they're basically all the way out. So because cycle safety was a concern on this route, we didn't consider angled parking, particularly when we were expecting cyclists on the road.
Okay.
So you, Lynn?
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, no worries. Dave?
Just a couple of points. I go back to the legal road. What is the legal status of structures on the legal, beyond the legal road now? Are they?
Sorry, Dave, I'm struggling to see
I'm just
relevance.
Leads into the second one really. I quite like progressing option C and looking at options, and probably like to toss in the idea of the promenade, which keeps people all the way away from roading. And you may have then the option to restore a lot of parking, extend the bays, and bring them back closer to the legal road. But yeah, I'm just interested in the legal status of things that have encroached into the legal road. And asking you that when you reassess option C.
Sorry, I don't know. Well, I need to hear from Lenny to touch on this, but I don't see if that deals with what we're trying to deal with today.
Well, it doesn't.
Well, can we focus on what we're trying to deal with today then? I'm sure if your intellectual curiosity for this can be dealt with offline. Lenny?
Yeah, I think that's probably the better way to do it, is we deal with it offline. But in a nutshell, we have roads, designated roads all over city, well, not so much over the city, but definitely all over the peninsula, that aren't necessarily in a place where you can drive cars. But they are still designated as a legal road. Yeah, no, they might not even be paper roads. But we do have roads in that situation. In this case, there is a space that is designated as legal road and there are dunes on it. The dunes have encroached on it or are in part of that space. That doesn't reduce our requirement for consenting when we are undertaking works in the marine environment. So that's the reality of it.
Yeah. So we'll draw a line under that. Yanni, and then Alex, and then Esther, and then Celeste, and then Joe.
So I was just wondering, in terms of reverse angle parking, which is safer. So is that something that was considered?
Backing in.
Are you talking back?
No, it's what, like we have to do it at work, for example. So if you think about safety, if we looked at angle parking, reverse angle parking.
I don't think it's safer than parallel parking.
Not on a road.
Because if you're opening a door into a cycle lane,
so
if you back in, you don't own the lane.
How about we listen?
Councillor, we back in our car parks in a controlled environment, in a building, in a car park building, or in a car park, because it is, you have less, there has been proven to be less incidents with driving out, reversing in and driving out. In an active road environment, to come along and back into your car park is not vastly different than backing out. We need more road space in order to make it safe to be able to back out and find your space before you enter your lane of traffic and take off. So we've had these conversations in a number of situations, but from a road safety perspective, for drivers, angle parking is not as safe if we don't have the space. Any form of angle parking is not as safe as parallel parking. People.
Yeah.
And so another question I was going to I'm just quite interested in that higher level view of the pathway, and recognizing that this project is only very specific, but I would be interested in how it connects on the ends. And I just wondered, in terms of the shared path, got a 3 metre wide proposal, and I'm just wondering if we've had any sort of learnings from the coastal pathway around width. It seems to me one of the challenges has been that although it's a cycleway, it's a pathway as well. And so what you have is a whole bunch of competition of users with different speeds, different age groups, and there's been a bit of tension. But I'm just wondering if we've learned anything from the coastal pathway design that might help us, like with this design, around just making it safer for more people rather than just adding anything.
Cool promenade.
It may do that. I think we've learned a lot about shared paths. There is a lot of thought generally that shared paths are the answer. And I would argue that actually the shared paths to actually look at are the ones through Hagley Park. And we get a lot of complaints for them. That's why we've proposed a 3 metre wide shared path. The coastal pathway is even wider, it's 4. I think that's right, isn't it, Michelle? 4 metres? I think coastal pathway is 4 metres wide, so it's, yeah. So it's wider again, yeah, probably. So it's wider again. By the time it was being built, we had demonstrable volumes along there. So, yeah, shared facilities have challenges because everyone has to do exactly that.
And can we go, we can't go any wider here with the third option because of the constraints with the dunes and the.
We think we'll be starting to get into constraints with the dunes. Yeah.
I guess I am concerned about the narrowness, particularly the shared path at 3 metres.
3 metres, 3 metres for a shared path is standard design guidance, and it's almost twice as wide as a standard footpath.
Can I just add to that? It's exactly on that shared path, it's on that point. There is a dune top walkway which can only be done on foot. So lots of people choose to do the feet only one already.
So we just make it a cycle.
Thanks, that was helpful, Wesley. Sorry. All right, can we, we'll just draw a line under that. Alex?
Yeah, I've got 3, but they're actually quick, I promise. So back to Esther's point about where the footpath's been replaced, the non-council works. So I understand that Esther's saying the houses are raised and things like that. So if we were to replace the deep dish gutter with a flat dish gutter, and we didn't sort of replace the footpath, you're saying that, I know the houses are raised as well, but that could result in surface flooding on the road too.
Yeah, it'll, any option will, like in a really heavy event, will result in surface flooding.
Right.
The issue that we're solving with this arrangement is the potential encroachment into private property.
And, okay, yeah. And then the second question was, did you say, I know it's ballpark again, you can't say for certain. So just for clarification, you said hundreds of thousands. Was that for that, just that stretch for that footpath? And once again, I know it's ballpark, just the stretch for that footpath's been redone? Or is that?
Sorry, that's just for like swapping them over.
Right.
Kind of thing. It's still.
Is that for the entire stretch or just that area with the footpath? And I know it's ballpark again, but.
It's only that, in that area, isn't it?
Yeah, it's only, sorry, it's only.
170,
So
142.
what I'm talking about is, so from Lonsdale through to Thompson Park.
Right, that whole stretch.
Yeah, that whole stretch, but it's just talking about
Yes, yeah.
swapping it over. There's still going to be costs associated with pulling out the existing deep dish and then putting a new curb and flat and making all the levels work.
So it's just from Lonsdale to Thompson?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. And my last question, in regards to the funding, option A and option B, you mentioned has a contingency of about 30%. Is that 1.6 million also including that 30% contingency? That extra for option C?
Sorry, could you clarify?
So you told us that there will be an extra 1.6 million for option C.
Yes.
Is that including a 30% contingency as well?
Correct, yeah.
Okay.
All right. Esther, and then Celeste, and then Joe, and then Kelly, and I'm going to say no more questions after that. So I want to make sure that we are able to finish the presentation. Esther.
Sorry, I'll try to be quick. Number 1 was around obviously we're going to have to, as you say, remove some trees. Has the staff done any work around what kind of planting might happen to replace those? I noticed in the submissions there were some people who talked about specific types of trees and specific types of grasses that would be advantageous for the area. Is that something that's been considered as well?
Sorry,
We haven't gone into detail yet.
no, it's very early concept stage. Yeah.
We haven't gone into detail at all.
The other thing I wanted just to pick up on was, so I did a thematic analysis across all the submissions. I didn't do it in A and B, I just looked generally. And in that I noticed that there were 72, at least it was a bad count, 72 submissions on safe crossings, but quite a few of them mentioned safe crossings in particular parks. So I see that in these options, we've got some safe crossings down at Hepuna Taimoana, but also in people's submissions, they mentioned crossing across from Rafferty Domain, Thompson Park across, and I'm not sure I see a pedestrian crossing. I know that that B had lots of speed things, which obviously clearly were controversial, but just wondering if there's been, I just noticed a lot of people said, please don't waste money on the elevated speed platform things, whatever they're called, and said, please just put some well-signposted pedestrian crossings in, and I understand they're relatively affordable. And I think that is all.
All right.
Oh, the question. Could we perhaps look at putting some more zebra crossings in places that are hotspots, especially for when we've got visitors in town for coast to coast rugby, I love New Brighton, those sorts of things.
Have we got zebra crossings on?
We've got it at the intersection of Brook Street and Marine Parade. There's some zebra crossings there.
Yeah.
And then that's
I guess, so I'll just I guess point out that there are existing curb build outs basically along Thompson Park, which is to help people get across. In terms of zebra crossings, we've got to be really careful where we place those, because you have issues around like pedestrians expect that they've got priority, and so they potentially step out without looking. So I guess we can be part of the looking at it, but we can't make an assessment now on what can be and can't be included.
Oh, thank you.
Right, Celeste. And then Joe, and then Kelly.
Thank you. Just a question around like pedestrians, sort of people with prams and scooters. We got quite a bit of feedback around that. It's like a category of people that use that road. In terms of option C, I would imagine that, I'd be keen to get your thoughts, having a wider path is, because the status quo is a narrow path that there's more conflict anyway, because people are choosing to use that, because if you're on the eastern side of the road, you actually don't have any other option in some sections because there's no footpath. So from a disability access pram scooter perspective, would that provide more space? Like, what's the view from a kind of accessibility lens?
Way to go. From an accessibility perspective, we actually have a more a lot of the accessibility groups don't prefer shared paths because of that. So they are challenging. They're challenging for aged users, but there is more space. But it does come down to that word shared. And so if you get 2 or 3 prams walking along together and blocking the path, it can be a problem and it can cause conflict. So there is more space for everyone to use, but more space doesn't always mean more cohesion, if you put it that way. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah.
But yeah, there is more space for everyone to use. It may mean that people that are less comfortable cycling on the road will cycle over there and not use the footpath. The footpath down there is a reasonable width, so for it's standard width for footpaths. Yeah, except when you have big volumes,
or where it ends as well.
Yep.
It's only certain lengths, and I guess currently I think it's designated a shared path. So what we're doing is providing a wider path.
Yeah. So it's better level of service, definitely.
And then the final one for me is, can I just remind me, because I know that we had, this is obviously a bit of a killer sometimes, but tar seal, is that what it's called?
Chip seal.
No, the tar that we dig up. Coal tar, sorry. How much does that cost for that 175 millimetre section? What's component, was it 600,000 for that particular?
Test my memory now, but it is included. Disposal of coal tar is included in any option with the asphalt.
Okay.
As well.
Have we got a lot along there?
Yeah, the whole thing. Yeah.
Right. And
so at this stage we're just treating the so there has been tests done along Marine Parade.
Yeah.
And all of them came back for coal tar.
Yeah.
So at this stage, until we get into detailed design and figure out exactly where it is, we've treated like we have it.
Yeah.
Where we need to do asphalt.
Bearing in mind it's only a very small section, unlike some other roads where we've been able to do a lot more, that is potentially a cost saving for the board if they chose to kind of play around with what the priority is. So that's just something that we can consider as part of option C. Just trying to understand where the variables are in terms of the options, and if we want to move things around. Thank you. Oh, sorry, final thing is, with chip seal, is there a coating that is like asphalt? It creates a similar effect?
So as with aggregate, you use on the top.
Yeah, is there a smoothing treatment we can put on chip seal to create a similar effect without having to dig up coal tar?
No, not really.
Not currently?
No.
Okay.
All right, Joe, and then Kelly, and if he's lucky, Greg.
Thank you. With the feedback that we received, there was overwhelming feedback to support option A, and also a loud voice saying that it's a waste of money, we should do something else. If we do like you're saying, option C would be on top of option A, but I've noticed that there are some build outs in option C. Were they not presented in option A originally? Like the build outs around the street corners,
Which one, sorry, which one are you talking about?
about Lonsdale and Graffiti, there seems to be like more build outs around the corners. Yeah, so you've got on the west side of on west side of Marine Parade going into Lonsdale Street.
Yeah, so this build out here.
Yeah.
Is allowed for a person riding a bike to cross safely to the other side. So that's a new proposal there.
Oh, so that's to do with the cycle, the
Yeah,
shared pathway. Right.
okay.
And there is another one here as well. So we are proposing a speed hump right by Graffiti intersection as well.
So people have already more or less given feedback about not having those kind of things in option A, so I've added them in option C.
Because it's
To
done
avoid a
around.
cyclist. And you've
Yeah.
got a school down that comes through Graffiti Avenue to be able to cross safely
Yeah.
as well. So to accommodate. for
Well,
that.
I bike around that corner all the time because that's where I live,
Mm.
and it's going to be more dangerous having it built out like that, trying to get around the corner.
Do a safety audit. And
It will be.
Sorry, it's a-
further as well.
Graffiti, sorry.
Yeah, it's
you're talking-
Graffiti Avenue.
That's repeating, I'm talking about Lonsdale Street. But the build out is because at the moment it gets quite sharp and quite confined in there if you're on a bike. But also,
I don't think that's built out. Which way are you going to go? So,
there,
oh, yeah.
so that's built out. So it's easier to like, go around there. And I've also got concerns about just the pathway with carrying boards and skis and everything into the way of cyclists. So that's just another thing, but I just want to talk about option A.
There any, sorry, I'm just trying to, where's the question?
Well, the option A has been altered as a result of option C.
Sorry,
Whereas you're saying it would be on top of that.
Yes,
You
and
get
those
what I mean?
those
You get what I mean?
alterations
Yeah,
are.
what
those
Joe's saying, I think, is that option C is not A plus the cycleway. It's
No.
a completely different thing.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
which is why it would need to go back out, but the changes are proposed to support the cycleway.
Yeah.
so
And
And
how much will it
facilitate
cost for another consultation?
I'll do it for free on Facebook.
It'll be the cost, it'll be, we haven't costed it.
So this is eating more into our craft fund, whereas if we just chose option A now, we'd save a lot of money. Thank you.
Kelly,
Yay. Thanks for all the work you've done. It's good to see it progress after so long. I'm just really interested in potential timelines. If we agree to one of the options at the decision-making meeting, where is it likely to fit in the program of works in terms of where is it likely to start?
If we go with option A or,
Yeah, well, let's just say.
They make a decision, as long as they make a decision at the meeting.
yeah,
Good luck with it.
so if,
we will have, we need to make a decision at the meeting, whatever that decision might be, we need to make that decision.
Excuse the turn of phrase, Chair.
so we're looking at going up for, if the board makes a decision next month, we go up for, planning to go up for construction in March.
Yeah, 25.
That would be so good.
And if that decision was made to go with sort of an option C, how many months do you think it would delay that move to start in March by? Any ideas?
High level estimate, we're looking at May,
So not too much.
May,
not
June,
too
yeah.
bad.
But so just to clarify, if we were to give a steer to you today that we would like to consult on that option, on option C as well,
Yeah.
and then we were to decide at the decision meeting for option C, instead of starting in March, we start in May. The construction.
please clarify the question?
Sorry.
So through you, Mr. Chair, so after liaison with staff, and I'm sure Shalene was going to get to it during her slides, if the board were today to give a steer to go out and consult on an option C, the decision meeting would be pushed out. So that wouldn't be what we've currently got penciled in for September. That will be pushed out for them to further investigate and then to go out to consult and then come back for a decision meeting in November that we're working towards. So.
But it's still in May.
So yeah, so potentially 2-month delay this end of the year and the same in 2025. So just to make that clear for the purpose.
And so my final question is, nowhere else along the entire length of Marine Parade is a sort of shared path off the road as such. Why have you decided to include this particular enhancement when there's no other shared path along the entire length of the road?
There is a shared path between the Lonsdale down.
Waimari down to Coffee Shed's shared pathway, isn't it?
And along in front of here.
And there's an informal one, definitely an informal one down South Croydon.
What I'm saying is that, you know, it's probably 20% of the length of the road. Why are we choosing to enhance this piece of?
We got asked to come back with another option, councillor.
And it was, yes, we had the overall aims of these improvements, and then we got feedback, and and staff have presented an option which is a synthesis and response to that, which includes a cycleway and that doesn't take away all the parking. So
yeah, it's obviously a lot because the original board just asked for a zebra crossing at the pools, the curb and channel and resealed and nothing else.
well, here we are.
Here we are.
Greg.
Is the surface of the shared path asphalt?
Yes.
In this one?
Yeah, the proposed shared path would be asphalt.
Oh my God.
That's all right. Okay.
Through the chair, can I just ask a quick question of the board and the members around the table? Do you understand the rationale around the issues with the drainage and taking out deep dish and putting in flat, and just the volume challenges that we have? Because I can draw a very quick diagram if it would help you understand that. Is that all right, Chair? It'll take 2 minutes. Can I use the whiteboard?
Engineering 101, here we go.
I just have to say, I'm not as exciting as Steve Guy. He draws pictures about.
Now, one of these is a permanent market. Tricks they all love.
So your profile with your cube, when you have a deep dish, it looks like this, and then your road goes like that up to the ground up here. It looks over extenuated, but often when you have a deep dish, so you have your cube there, your dish, let's make that a bit prettier. And you often have a high crown. So and then your flat, you will have your cube and your channel sitting there, and you'll often have a lower crown. You're a bit out of proportion, I'm sorry, this is going to look a bit over extenuated, but when you have your flat, your volume of water that you can fit is in there. When you have your deep dish, it actually comes out into the road, so the volume you can fit, and while I'm not in proportion, is much higher. So when we change to flat, what we often have to do is we have to put under channel pipes in under here, and the size of that under channel pipe depends on the extra volume that we have to get out of here, because what we don't want is we don't want this coming back over here, because then you've got your footpath and your greenery, you've got someone's property here, what we don't want is we don't want this water coming back up and starting to run back in that direction. All right?
Yeah.
Engineers are happy with me?
Send through the link.
I have, yeah, you can, yeah, absolutely, and I have got a much better drawing. I don't like to sign anything, sign my artwork. So that's why we have it, and I mean, we make it sound very simple that we take out deep dish and put in flat. And it's a much more accessible, from an accessibility perspective, much more accessible system because it's easier to step around and all the rest of it. It's much easier to trip in this. And we make it sound very simple, but there's a lot of challenge that goes in, particularly on a flat city like Christchurch. So that's why we do that.
So you're doing a lot of work underground?
A lot of work underground done.
And you're saying there's not, you were saying there's not the parts in that, from 170 to whatever it is, 142, there's not the pipe under the ground.
Yeah, there's not the pipe under the ground, so we have to put the pipe under the ground as well. So you put this in, and then you have sumps that go to the pipe under the ground, and that takes it all the way to the system, to the.
And you can't do funky things. Sorry, everyone.
Yeah,
you can't like say angle the road towards the beach because it's sand and it literally just disappears.
Well, we could, but that seems to be discharge.
So we are running out of time, so I'm going to draw this to close. If I can ask staff and our guests to sit back in the public gallery so that we can discuss what our board position is on whether we want to consult. Thank you very much, Esther and Dave and Lynn. But your contributions and questions are much appreciated and certainly help clarify some things for me. So members, staff have asked us to decide what to agree or not to go out to consult that on option C as well, which will add it to the list of options we'll add it to the list of options that we can decide at the decision meeting, which would then be probably in November. So I guess the thing we have to consider is whether if we think that this is an option that the public should have a say on whether to include or not, we get an idea of what they think, or if we think that the other things aren't going to, that it's not that much of an improvement, it doesn't achieve or not achieve, or it's too expensive or whatever, then we might not want to include it. So, I mean, my personal view, I think it's worth consulting the public on, despite the delay. And as you know, I'm not one who particularly wants to delay things, but I think the staff have gone, and what has been a reasonably divisive issue, have gone and tried to get a synthesis that would include cycle safety and keeping all but 10 parks. So if that is, I'm happy to hear from other people on what your thoughts are. Just one at a time, once each, and we'll get a sense of where people are. If anybody wants to speak now, we've only got about 5 minutes and then we'll need to stop because we've got a notified public meeting. Joe.
Yeah, I'll start off because I was on the original board when the CREF came to us, and we had presented originally about 15 streets to actually repair in the area, and it was actually quite promising that we'd get some of the damage repaired. And then it went to the Marine Parade project, and I was the only one that opposed it being spent on Marine Parade. But in saying that, it's come to this now, and we actually need to proceed with probably the best way to spend this CREF money. It could be used for a lot of things in our ward instead of just one project. And we heard the consultation feedback overwhelmingly say it is kind of a waste of money and to do option A. But I just don't want to see the fund dwindled down to nothing. It would be a real pity because we've still got a lot to do in the area.
So just for clarification, your steer is?
My steer would be just go with option A.
Okay.
The steer is just to not consult on option C and to have option A and B at the decision meeting. Yeah, cool. Anybody else? Celeste?
I think that the process has been quite long and quite challenging, as we can all agree, but I think, that's sometimes what happens with these projects. You get a bit lost in the process and then you pop out the other end. And so I think it has been quite useful, and sometimes where you end up is different to where you started, and I think that's important. And it shows that you're open to kind of changing your mind. Through the consultation, I think it's clear that there's quite a split between people that like option A and people that don't like other option. And I think the fact that so many people don't like either option suggests that synthesizing feedback, so taking what people like from option A, which is making it clear that people want to retain the car parking, but also providing better safety provision for people that are using that space. And that's pedestrians. If it's an asphalt park, that's actually quite a significant improvement on the current sandy path. So if you're in a wheelchair and you're trying to pedal along the sandy path, I can imagine it's not that accessible, nor would it be accessible if you've got a pram or if you've got a scooter and kids. So I just think there's so many benefits to taking the feedback that people have given us, hearing it, and then coming up with an option C, because that's the whole point of the consultation process. And you want me to wrap up?
Yeah.
And I think the final point for me is that next year we're going to be doing a number of changes to the area. We have them all coming through. So we have to really be looking at future-proofing the area. So I think rather than sort of thinking small and just making a few minor improvements, we should be looking at how we can future-proof the area to make it better space for everybody. And that's, I think, why option C for me speaks to that, is actually making it a better project overall, rather than just sort of a slight tweak of the existing road.
So just
So option C would be
a reminder that we're not arguing, this isn't a debate in favour of options, this is a debate in favour of going out to consultation on option C or not. That's it.
Yeah, so I'm in favour of going out for consultation to hear what people are doing. Yeah, great. That's
Alex?
your vision.
Yeah, I've always said that New Brighton's a wonderful place and we should have amenities to reflect that. But I think it's really important as board members that we're being honest about the statistics. And to say that the overwhelming feedback is the cost is not necessarily true, and that shouldn't be a reason to stop us going out for consultation. If you look at 100...
Honest, can you rephrase that?
Okay, if we're looking, I think cost is an important factor, we've got to recognise that, but 35 out of 139 people is not an overwhelmingly enough reason not to consult on option 3. And therefore, I support going out for consultation because our community deserves a say on all these options. I think staff have done a wonderful job at finding us a middle ground, and car parking was the biggest concern, and staff have really done a good job to address that, and I think we should highlight that.
Kelly, did you have your hand?
Come back to me.
Okay. Yang.
I think we should go out for further consultation, although I'm just kind of a bit concerned about this process. Like, we're in an information session, so we can't make decisions. And I feel like because we wanted to go over the third option, we actually made the decision, we weren't able to. But now we're being asked to go for a third option. So I just think we need to kind of think about our processes around how we make decisions to go out with what options. Because the frustration is this is kind of the option that I want us to go out with to start with, and yet we were told we couldn't. And then now here we are going, okay, let's get feedback. Anyway, long story short, let's go out for the alternative option. I do have some concerns about it, but hopefully that can be picked up through submissions.
Thank you.
I would just ask that we do give people a bit of an understanding of the bigger picture in terms of connectivity, because at both ends I have concerns about what happens to where people go.
Right. Thank you. Anybody else wish to speak? So I just want to, or at least can give a sense where whether you support going out to consultation. Okay, so that's 5 of us in favour, but I would like to hear. So that's
yeah. I mean, I thought option 1 was a pretty good one, but yeah, I'm not opposed to going out and doing it properly and future-proofing it, I suppose. But I would note that there isn't an awful lot of road shared pathway along the rest of the Marine Parade. And so I wonder really whether it's a wise spend, an extra 1.2, is it 1.6 million dollars to do something that is not really supported at either end. So I'll go with the majority. It's called democracy.
Well, you've got 1 minute.
I've got 1 minute. It's not going along the full length of the Marine Parade, but that doesn't mean that it won't. This is a nice place to start. It gets it done in the middle of the business district where most of the people are coming to Brighton. And then later on, I can envisage that we would go and do the rest of Marine Parade. So I think it's a moot point that it doesn't follow the whole road at this point.
All right, well, thank you, everyone. So the steer to start is that if you could consult go out and consult on that option C. Also just remembering the option with removing those trees and extending the 2 bays and looking at what it would save to remove that, to not change the guttering, or not change the guttering, how do you put it? The swapping the asphalt and the grass. Yeah.
And the asphalt of the section of the road is the other option for cost saving.
And the what, sorry? Can you clarify?
There was 2 options. There was one, which was the berms.
Yeah.
The second one was the 175 metres of asphalt.
Yeah, okay, so staff, you could note that. All right, so that ends our information session, and we will start
Thanks, Lynn.
at 25.